stories of awakening, which has been inspired to conversate with different people that I have beautiful connections with, small and large, over the years, and to hear, yeah, just an opportunity, a platform to actually draw out these stories, aware that we can be so much in the moment because there's so much happening. It's also nice to just take a moment to step back, reflect, and kind of look back with the hindsight of what got us to where we are right now, with the level of awareness and maybe commitment to this journey of awakening and service that we're in. And so today I have Lou Martin from Ireland, who is definitely very much on the path for a long time, and I'm sure he's going to share a lot about that today. And I've had the great privilege of connecting with Lou over the latter years, and it was via a beautiful lady who actually worked with me, Helena from Ireland, who introduced me to Lou. And I booked a session sometime, maybe a couple of sessions or more, and yeah, it was really wonderful, and we've had a lovely connection over social media. So thank you, Lou, for saying yes to this conversation.
Pleasure. What a beautiful introduction. I'm feeling really spoiled rotten already. Thank you.
Wonderful. That's what we like to do here at the Vibrant Living High Vibe Cafe.
Hallelujah. I feel it. I'm feeling the love, MJ.
Yay!
It's wonderful. It's great to reconnect with you, my friend. As I said earlier, it's just a joy.
Yeah, beautiful. So the first question I'd like to ask, and it's a question I want to pretty much see if I can keep asking everybody, is for you, what is awakening? When you hear that word, how would you best describe what that means for you?
Well, that's a beautiful place to start off on. I mean, to me, it really is unconditional love. And, my awakening happened on one particular day in August of 1987. I had this awakening in meditation, kundalini awakening, and it really lit up my chakras and opened my heart fully and completely. I was like in an altered state for a week. And it was answered prayer for me because I had been struggling for years at that point. It was just as I was turning 30. And I was really up against some challenges in my life at that point. And just going within and meditating and trusting, and then getting that guidance to open my heart, open my heart, open my heart. That was the before and after moment of this lifetime. And honestly, that love, that unconditional love, that sense of oneness with the universe, that has never really left me in some ways. I mean, I say that, and I know I've cried my tears and had my fears like everyone does. But that experience, that once that door opens, it never really closes, is my description of that.
So can you tell a little bit more in that meditation? So you're in this meditation. So what opened the door? What led you even into that meditation?
Well, it was really kind of a cosmic setup, my little story here. I was, at this point, I was been working in bookshops for about a decade at the end of my 20s, and I was working in a spiritual bookshop at that point and starting to read more spiritual material, Ram Dass and near-death experiences and the Dalai Lama's story and things like this. And I literally met a friend who told me there's this thing called kundalini energy, and here's a piece of quartz crystal he gives to me, and says if you meditate with it, it might open your kundalini energy. And I swear to God, the first time I did it, that's what happened. So
Wow.
yes, I feel like the universe is going, okay, buddy, here you go, let's get on with it. And so how, it's just inner guidance. I had meditated off and on since I was 16, but not with any real discipline about it at that point. And smoked a whole lot of weed, read a whole lot of books in my 20s, played a lot of guitar, a lot of music on my guitar. But I really wasn't getting the answers, and that really did light me up. And then we had something on the planet that was called the Harmonic Convergence, which was this time of spiritual awakening for many people, and I felt really drawn to that and got
When was
involved.
that? That was 89, was it?
87,
Oh, that
August
was
16.
87. Ah.
Yeah, August 15, 16, 17 of 1987. And I was working in the bookshop at that time, and we even had the author of the book, The Mayan Factor, Jose Arguelles, come to the bookstore and give a talk there. I wasn't there that day for whatever good reason, but I felt really, I did read the book, and I felt, yeah, this feels true to me, and I feel somehow connected to this. And yeah, that's when things really began.
So let me ask you a question. You mentioned there that you weren't finding the answers. So what were you looking for? You know, when you say you weren't finding the answers when you were playing guitar, you were smoking weed, you know, just kind of go with that trail of thought.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure, sure. Well, I mean, a couple things. I'd grown up loving acting and film and theater, and studied that in school in Los Angeles. And then just before my senior year in school, my dad was murdered. So yes, so that was the beginning of the Hamlet years. And I finished school, and I did get into a professional repertory company as an actor, but I was too depressed and overwhelmed about everything to really kind of see anything through at that point. I went in and out of 4 different schools in 3 years. And then I just decided to work, and that wound up being bookstores and doing a lot of reading, which I really did love, getting to read.
Sorry, where were you brought up? Where were you going to school? What was the location?
I was in Los Angeles. I was
This is
in
all Los Angeles.
yeah, this is all in LA. Yeah, Palos Verdes. And actually, I just spoke with my high school buddies a week ago Sunday, some of whom for the first time in 44 years since
Wow.
1976. Yeah, since we graduated, and so that was a treat and a thrill. But I mean, what were the answers I was looking for? Was life and death, you know, like Hamlet asks, you know, and why was my life so challenging and difficult, and what was I there to do? And that's basically how things began to shift for me in terms of really looking towards spiritual ideas and answers and teachings and all that.
Yeah. Was it the death of your father? Was that the real one that brought you to that head of what the heck is this all about?
Yeah, not immediately, because you know, in our culture, we're not great at grief, and particularly for men, you know, we're not really supported to grieve the losses in our lives. But I did learn that in my 30s through this poet Robert Bly, and his book Iron John, and met him and went to his workshops for a while. And yeah, all the grief that I had not processed from my childhood and my dad's death and all that just came roaring up in me in my 30s. And that also gave me the clarity and the strength to be sober for the last 30 years as well.
Mm-hmm. And what would you, yeah, just talk to that about men not able to grieve and kind of growing up in a society where you're not allowed to have that emotional freedom, if you like.
Sure, sure. Well, it's like a gilded cage, you know. Men seem to be treated, you know, with great privilege and with a lot of assumptions about what status and what rights we have in relationship to women and the world and all of that. But you know, the price of that is a lot of emotional suffocation and living in the head, and you know, acting out with drugs and sexually and things like this, and unhappy relationships and all that, all of which I've done. And you know, it wasn't until I really started to you know, believe that there was a God in my heart, and be able to listen to, trust, and follow that peace and that wisdom and that healing love, that I started to really figure out why I was on the planet. And I always felt that I had a purpose that was different from other people's. I just wasn't sure what it was until these things began to happen. And then when the convergence happened and this awakening happened for me, I got introduced to channeling and many different teachers and many conscious friends. Truly, that was also a divine setup. Living in Los Angeles in the 80s and 90s was like a Harvard of spiritual New Age studies. Everyone was there, everything was there, every opportunity was there. And also, having worked in this bookshop, my friend and I were invited to go meet my first channel, Lazaris, for free, and attend any workshop we liked for free. And Lazaris turned out to be, for me in hindsight, the most important spirit guide of the last 33 years. And I've studied with them pretty much every day since that time.
Mm-hmm. And so Lazaris, so I haven't heard so much about Lazaris, apart from actually your posts.
Right.
So
Well,
what's their general message, or what was it about them that you feel is the most important information for you or connection for you?
well, for example, the first time I saw them was in an auditorium in a hotel, and I happened to be sitting in the front row, and then the place filled up with 500, 1,000 people, something like that. And I thought, well, this is interesting. And this
You're not
lovely,
alone.
yeah, exactly. I'm not a man outstanding in my field at the moment. Yeah. So this lovely man who channels Lazaris, Jack Purcell, he came out, and is very gentle soul and sweet guy. So he sits and talks for a few minutes, and then he gets out of the way, and he brings Lazaris through. And when Lazaris started to channel through Jack, their message was, the Mayan calendar and all that you're experiencing might not be historically exact, but it's close enough to help us make the point that you're a light worker, and the next 25 years of your life and beyond are going to be about your awakening, and you're helping others to awaken, that this is a time of humanity's spiritual rebirth. And they broke it into 87 to 92, and then from 92 to 2012. And that, like everything they've taught me, was incredibly accurate and very, very helpful and valuable. So they've stopped channeling. Jack sort of retired from public events at this point, but they have just hundreds and hundreds of workshops that are available on their site, lazaris.com. A lot of people think it's Lazarus, like who rolls the stone away from the Bible. No, it's Lazaris. And so their message was that, and their message is also, consciously creating our reality and learning how to do that in a joyous and meaningful way.
Interesting. And so what was you said from 87 to 92, and then 92 to 2012. So what was the 87 to 92?
Well, for me, MJ, that was really just studying and reading and going to workshops of Lazaris and other teachers. Dr. Peebles is another wonderful spirit guide I worked with many, many times through different channels, who's been a great inspiration and guide, and others as well. The Council of Light, the Council of Love, many different channel teachers who earned my trust and respect, and I believe they were accurate and honest and helpful. And then after 5 years of that, I took a class in opening to channel, and I also finished my studies at Michael Beckwith's Agape School there in being a practitioner in spiritual counseling. And then in May of 92, that's when I got activated to channel my guides that I've been channeling for the last number of years here.
Okay, so that was that specifically for you, that 87 to 92 and then 92 to 2012, or is that for the group?
That was for the whole planet.
Right. Okay. So was that 87, 92 like a time? Sounds like you really went deep dive into study, discovery. Yeah. Your own inner work, I'm sure, and readying yourself.
Lots of tears on different tables and different workshops and different healing modalities, and beginning to really dig up the garden and learn how to get in and out of my own way in the process.
So for those who are newly awakening, as we're aware, millions and millions of people are awakening, newly awakening, quickening in the awakening on this planet.
Welcome to the club, everyone. Welcome. Glad to have you.
Yeah. What would you, because obviously it's going to be a bit different for this next wave of awakening.
Sure. It's different for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. What maybe just to speak to men in Pacific, since you have that, that integral experience around that and that heart, what would you say to men? Because like even my own beautiful husband, I haven't seen him cry a lot.
Right.
you
right.
know? So it's
Well,
like,
you have
yeah.
something to look forward to, my friend. You know,
I'll let
honestly,
him know.
go on. Sorry, just
Oh,
go
I
ahead,
said
sweetheart.
I let him know.
Do give him my best regards in that on that subject. I mean, it's tricky, as you know as much as anyone, because really 90% of the spiritual people on the journey are, you know, are women. Uh,
Mm,
it's my experience, and excuse me. So for the men, this probably is going to be one of the qualities that comes out of this economic, you know, crisis that the world has created and is moving through. Because men, of course, more than anyone, I'd say, have defined ourselves by the work that we do
mm,
and how we provide for our family and these kinds of things. So I'm sure everyone is going through an existential crisis, but especially men in terms of their identity and role in the world. I think it's going to bring a lot more men to prayer and to meditation and looking within and looking for new resources, etc.
mm.
But to answer your, yeah, go on.
Oh, I was going to say, yeah, that transition, we'll say, out of what you've just spoken of, the
Yeah,
provider and the qualifying one's sense of value and worth through the
yes,
external representation in the workplace, or the material gains, or whatever it is.
yes.
What
Identity is the word that comes to mind.
Okay, identity.
Yeah.
So what would you say that transition is, you know, through the meditation, the prayer, what is happening for, I mean, all of us, but what is happening for men in Pacific? What are they transitioning into? If you can give a reference to that.
Well, to greater freedom, you know, I think is the short answer to that. And like we're saying, and I'd said this earlier today, you know, it's completely, our reality now more than ever in our lives, to my mind, is completely subjective. And so what we perceive as truth, what we value, how we, you know, measure ourselves, how we work with the world, what we create in the world is more dependent on each person's own sense of what we believe is possible and what we're willing to try and to work with in order to overcome these challenges. So you know, because of course women with the divine feminine. So my guides say the feminine energies are emotion and spirit because they're hidden and mysterious and always moving and potentially infinite. And the masculine energies of mind and body are fixed and focused and more about the outer world and less about the inner world in general, you know. So because women are more naturally connected to innately connected is the word I want, to the divine feminine of emotion, spirit is right there in emotion, and women have been leading the charge, you know, quietly and steadily about spiritual awakening and emotional healing and all of that. So I don't, honestly, that's a great question. I don't know how men are going to really define this. I think it's going to be a lot easier for younger men in general who haven't lived so long in identifying themselves in the old world ways that we're talking about here. But I think it's up for everyone to find that freedom and to open their hearts. And as you and I know personally, as our own journey and healers and teachers, nothing opens the heart like crisis, you know, because crisis demands a resolution. And until we have some hope and sense about the resolution of these crises right now, you know, people are really searching every day inside and themselves and on the internet. What can I do? What is the answer? Et cetera, et cetera. And it's not coming quickly. The resolution to these situations are coming slowly, and they're coming more from people's willingness than it is from the outside in, I'd say.
Yeah, and I guess that's it, is that the old sense of safety and security was in that sense of predictability and having the answers. So then we're in this new territory. There is this vulnerability of surrender into
Mm.
the unknown, or what's formulating, and to be guided, which is more the heart and the spirit and the feminine way, if you like.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And that's beautifully said. And, you know, of course, there are wonderful spiritual men, teachers in the world, Neil Donald Walsh, James Twyman, Thich Nhat Hanh, Deepak Chopra, the list goes on and on, Michael Beckwith, you know, Wayne Dyer, many wonderful men, but it hasn't been a part of every man's, culture, that this is cool or okay or even acceptable, so you kind of do, my line is everyone gets to the church door on their knees at some point, and that's when life has our full attention, like it does right now. So yeah, there's meditation apps, there's wonderful books and classes and teachers and teachings and all of that. I think the big challenge for most men is being willing to see themselves in this deeper and more authentic and more emotional and vulnerable way. That the answers to my life and my crisis and my taking care of my family can actually come through my inner journey. That's a radical idea for most men.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we've been given plenty of time to sit back with it these last weeks.
I'd say there's no great rush at the moment. Yes, we've all been sent to our rooms without our supper has been my joke, to think long and hard about what we're doing and not doing.
Yeah, yeah. And to take away the doing in order to give that opportunity to come in and be more self-reflective.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Eckhart Tolle said, this is the opportunity of a lifetime. Don't waste it, and Thomas Hubel and some other teachers I like, are saying, whatever spiritual practice you have prior to this happening, that's your resilience and the resources that you're drawing on. But, the good news is about all of this, you don't have to be a metaphysician with decades of experience and whatnot under your belt. You really, truly just have to be willing. This is actually one of Lazaris's quotes. There's great wisdom in maturity and experience, but there's also great power in innocence and openness. And sometimes one gets, interferes with the other. So like we're saying, teacher, student, beginner, expert, they're all just these labels that, sometimes they're accurate and most of the time they're just generalizations. Because we have to live in the moment. We have to really, truly live in the moment. Like you're talking about being and the feminine wisdom and listening deeply and being patient, being detached, focused on the process or the meditation or the breath, detached from the outcome, not anxious, not impatient, not frustrated, not fearful, and of course, a lot of people with the physical challenges of what's going on as well, people are learning that, they can take dominion over their health and their consciousness together and get a sense of empowerment from that. So many doors are opening in the midst of all this crisis.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting times to say the least. Incredible times.
You bet. Yes, yes.
Yeah. What's because you're in Ireland, I'm in New Zealand. What is the feeling in Ireland? Because we're moving into level 2. Well, we have these levels here, so we're moving into level 2. So things are beginning to open up, and people will be able to move more freely as it moves into. I think it's on Thursday, so it's coming up. So where are you there? Because I hear that you're
sure.
Closed up.
Sure. Well, I think you and I are very lucky, honestly, honey, because, it's not so easy in other places, as we know. And the weather started to lighten and brighten here. The coffee shops are starting to open up just in the last few days, not for sitting down, but for takeaway and things like this.
Yeah.
And people are starting to have a sense of like there's a light at the end of the tunnel and whatnot. But yeah, from the end of March straight through up until the last week, there has been this sense that we've all been holding our breath and just looking at the numbers and listening to what the Taoiseach has to say and this kind of thing. And then, of course, I have a dear friend in the UK, or many dear friends in the UK, and of course in the States, and it's much less sunny and hopeful and optimistic for them. They're really still in the thick of where we were, a month ago, in terms of when and how, and they're going to be able to come back to opening up the country. I mean, the U.S. and the U.K., the level of incompetence and ignorance in the face of this impending catastrophe has been truly beyond comprehension.
And what would you say,
so it's a struggle.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, from my awareness and understanding and exploration through these weeks, there's many layers and levels of truth and revealing, and ultimately for this greater planetary awakening, as you said, crises,
Sure, sure, sure.
opening up the heart, opening up the mind, opening up the possibilities. But
Yeah,
obviously, it's challenging in the midst of it because it seems very
yeah,
chaotic, and a lot of what's transpiring is to see beyond the veils, is to awaken
sure,
that there's more going
sure.
on. I speak to that from your perspective of what you're witnessing, observing, or what's coming through your channel.
Sure. Well, no, you're quite right. It's a big question, so I have to take a moment here because there's so many moving pieces. Um, so I'll just lay my cards on the table. I truly believe that this is our time of purification that the indigenous cultures have been preparing us for a long time. And so there has to be this space for us to kind of bring all the darkness up into our conscious awareness and into the light. And so, like, the first shall be last, and the last shall be first, and all that. So this to me is like topsy-turvy time, where everyone is suddenly very equal, and people, corporations, governments, cultures, etc., who are still dissembling and manipulating and not being responsible. This is kind of tragic for a lot of people right now, and that upsets me, frankly. But the other part of it, as you're saying, is, thank God, most of everyone who I know is doing okay, and I'm grateful for that. We keep the whole world in our thoughts and prayers. Of course, we do every day, because we're all in the same boat together. But I do feel like the cleansing and the healing is throwing up a lot of darkness and a lot of corruption, that hasn't been healed or resolved or made right up until now. So what gets denied within us has to come at us as fate, as Carl Jung once said. So the world is really going through a deep reckoning on one level. But while the old world is ending of the patriarchy and all of that, I think we're through with queens and kings and presidents and popes. I think all of that is about in its last chapter and its last gasp. But while all that comes undone, you and I and others need to hold the deep space of knowing and trusting and loving and allowing that,
Compassion.
yes, yeah, compassion and mercy and kindness, that there are answers, there are solutions to everything that we're creating, feeding each other, taking care of each other, energy, all of that. But yeah, I do believe in the short term, astrologically here, at least between now and September, we probably haven't faced the biggest challenges yet in terms of just how things are being mistreated or mishandled, and the deceptions behind that.
Yeah, exactly. And there's that sense of with this kind of reopening of the cafes and more free movement, there's this a sense of people just wanting to get back to normal, and at the
Sure.
same time us having that awareness that, as you said, that we're not quite we're
Not
not, there
quite
won't be
there yet.
no and
Yeah,
plus letting go of getting back to normal, so to speak. I'll give you a great
yes,
example. Here myself
sure.
in New Zealand, and
Yeah,
I live 90 minutes from Christchurch. So in
right.
2011 when the earthquakes happened, I watched my clients come in. At the time I was running my day spa, massages, treatments, healings, and I watched, for the months afterwards, and even longer, to be quite honest, but definitely
Sure,
those first few months,
sure.
everybody was saying, we just want the buildings to be rebuilt. We just want the churches, the cathedral. There were the big buildings that came down, a lot of
Yeah,
old historic buildings,
sure, sure.
and of course they were pretty ruined. And so it was like,
Yeah,
oh, we just want to go back to normal, we just want the buildings built. And this was going on for a while, but as the months went on and the years went on especially, you know, it became then, because people weren't getting the money to rebuild their houses, they were kind of stuck in this what was called a red zone, and the earthquake commission, and it was all getting stuck. The energy was getting so stuck for people that they started to let go of wanting to go back to normal, and they finally started to go, I just want to get the insurance money for my house so I actually can repair it, or I can build a new one, or, you know, they just wanted to move forward then into
Sure.
the new. So it was
Sure.
interesting to watch that, how, and of course the reason, well, initially they wanted to go back to the normal, but then of course what happened was there was another shake and another earthquake and another earthquake and another rumble. I think there was like 10,000 or more rumbles, and it's like, you know, what does it take for us, our humanness, our ego? And of course it's totally understandable, and we hold it in compassion. It wants to hold on to
Sure.
what it knows and what it feels safe, even
Sure.
if it's painful to hold on to it, until it becomes less
Sure, honey.
painful to hold on to it, and then it's willing to
Well,
actually, you know, let go and move.
yes, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. I mean, that last sentence really says it all. Even if it's painful to hold on to it, we still want to hold on to it because we're more afraid of the unknown or of letting go than, than not. So, I mean, my guides say you come to this world for one purpose, and that is to make peace with change. And this is the challenge. This is it, you know. And so, how we become more deliberate co-creators is we have a spiritual practice that brings us to a place of peace and love and compassion and mercy that we give to ourselves, and then through extension we offer that to our loved ones in the world. Then we have, a place to retreat to and a resource to draw from. I really think that is the theme of this huge shift. One of my favorite teachers for years, and certainly right now, is Patricia Cota-Robles, and she does a video every week. And I just saw her new one tonight before we got on here. And her message continues from Spirit, continues to be, this is what you've been preparing for lifetimes. And like we're saying, MJ, if we can hold the vision within us, within our hearts for ourselves and our loved ones, then the universe will bend towards that humility and grace and devotion, and open the doors and show us how to make peace with change. But like you said so beautifully, if we keep holding on to what has been, even if it's painful and no longer serving us, the universe says you're on your own. So that's the challenge. How can we let go? And that is, of course, that's what faith is. Faith is, I don't know, but I believe, I'm willing to trust.
I don't know here, but somewhere deep down, this knowingness can carry me.
Yes, exactly. Well said. Yes, yes. My guides say understanding is of the mind. Belief is the mind, understanding is the heart, and knowing is the deepest part of ourself, the gut and the core of ourself. And as we're saying, in meditation and in devotional practice, we keep coming back, consciously connecting those three levels of belief, understanding, and knowing. And then when we step back out into the world, there's what I call the golden thread that connects the inner and the outer, and we're more able to be discerning and discriminating about what is helpful and what isn't helpful for us. And so I'm just saying here, my sense of what's happening is this is the beginning of our shift from the third to the fifth dimension, and learning to live from the inside out, which again is more about vibration and emotion and less about hierarchy and the physical reality.
And everyone taking self-responsibility for that creational ability.
Yes, there's no space for denial or deception in the fifth dimension.
Yeah. It was quite the experience, and now we're going, okay, we're done.
Well, yeah, kind of, honestly, and good for us, because they would like us, our guides, guardians, teachers, and friends of Spirit. I truly believe they would like us to wake up, like you started here today. What is awakening? They would like us to understand that we are safe, loved, and supported, and everything works together for good for all of us when we're willing to believe that and to understand how that works, humility, and to know that that's true. But again, the paradox of free will, it cannot be forced upon us. We have to take that responsibility and become deliberate and intentional and teachable in terms of how reality works, rather than trying to dominate, manipulate, seduce, and control reality into our will, which is falling apart.
So,
Thank
you. Yeah. So I mean, you know, to do that, what you said, safe, loved, and supported, it really takes such a deep trust in
Sure.
in something, trust in ourselves, in that deepest part of ourselves, and that connection.
Yes, dear. Yes, that's right. I'm just jumping in here because you're ringing my bell. So my guides say trust is everything, and what can you trust more than your deepest truth? As you said. So when we know what our truth is, peace, love, joy, healing, gratitude, everything that feels good, that opens our heart, inspiration, when we know that, then you know, when we can sustain that connection to peace, then the other things get added unto it. When we lose our peace through chaos and confusion, etc., the busy mind and all that, fear, worry, doubt, all of that, the heart is disconnected from the mind, and we're again on our own. So what you see, and of course, men with our masculine will, and you know, being the dominant energy on the planet for thousands of years, God love us, you know, we think we're gods, and we think we can do anything and have anything and say anything. I mean, Trump is like the poster child of denial on the planet, you know. And people who believe everything that he says is right and good, and it's right and good because he says it, you know, they're really experiencing now the tragedy. This is like the third act of a Shakespeare tragedy, where, you know, you can see the character of the person you've been trusting. It's been consistent all along, and it's never once been worthy of your trust, and now you're going to pay the price of that. So I hope that it's quick and painless, but it doesn't look like it's going to be either of those things, you know, for my American brothers and sisters out there. But I do believe that by the end of this summer, we're going to have much more clarity, because again, we're just like 2012, like we were talking about the 25-year period from 87 to 2012. Patricia and many others have spoken about this many times. She said that is when the new earth was born. And now we're coming into alignment with that. So this is the first time that we're crossing the galactic center on the summer solstice in 8 years. I just heard her do all the astrology of all this year, the 4-4 in April, and the Venus being a part of the Pleiades, which happens every 8 years, which hadn't happened since 2012, etc. So this whole decade that we're just beginning, obviously, is hugely important for human evolution and consciousness in the future of the planet. And so Spirit is, like we're saying here, doing all that it can to ask for our attention without, you know, it cannot, will not, prime directive, violate our free will. So again, for everyone who's willing to listen to, trust, and follow their loving inner guidance, however they manage to do that, when we practice that, whatever we practice, we get better at. When we practice that, we learn to quiet the mind, open the heart, and that is what awakens the spirit, the knowing that we're talking about. So when we do that, then we get filled with inspiration. The voice of spirit starts to come through us, and then we do get divinely guided. And it can happen for anyone at any time, but there has to be enough of our focus on the believing and trusting it, and less of our cynicism and doubt about it's not possible, or we don't deserve it.
Let's talk a little bit about what can be in the way of it. And so that being the inner work. So from your perspective, what is those different areas, we'll say, that can really hold it at bay, or really keep us away from trusting our heart or trusting ourselves, or being fully grounded in our body, etc., etc.?
Sure, honey. Sure. Well, these are glorious questions, my friend. You and I need to talk more often. Yeah, I mean, it's the 7 deadly sins, you know, lust, envy, greed, you know, avarice, you know, all of those lovely things that are character defects that we talk about in the 12 steps.
Avarice? What's that? I don't understand that word.
Greed, selfishness, you know, this kind of thing. You know, so the guides talk about their service to self, and then their service to others. And it's as simple as, if 51% of our life is devoted to service to others, then off you go into the higher realms. But for people that can't, don't, won't, or aren't ready to believe that that's possible, then God is a loving God and life is eternal in spirit. So, excuse me, so they get shifted in one direction. I don't know how it happens. I haven't a clue. And we get shifted in another direction. And this seems to be the beginning of that polarization. So the other answer to that great question is, of course, it's our ego. You know, this is, to me, this is the death knell of the 3D ego. And like you've spoken of, and you've lived this truth deeply, my dear friend, and I'm so proud of you for it. We all need to be very honest with ourselves. We need to be as authentic in our relationships as humanly possible. And we need to own where we haven't done that, and take responsibility for the impact of that, because the future of the planet is really going to be about integrity, and there won't be any secrets. Everything will be known and everything will be revealed. And I think this is the beginning of that, as I said. And so how that happens is a mystery to me. All I know is that denial, like I've been reading this book, Right Use of Will by Sehan de Rohan, and it's channeled from God, and God is saying, okay, I'm coming through this person. I'm going to speed things up here a bit. I'll send you the link if you like. And basically what he's talking about there is, look, folks, every problem you have in your world is through denial. And that's all you need to do, is understand your karma is not something God created. It's something that is a part of your reality, because you've been living half-truths and self-dishonesty for too long. So, you know, this is that time of truth once again. And it's why it's so important that each of us have a very deep and real relationship to what we understand as the truth, and do our best to embody that and share that.
So a few things come up for me when you're sharing there. One,
Good.
am I aware? That's what these conversations are all about, and connections.
I couldn't be happier. Bring it on. Yeah.
So yeah, so in my journey, what I've noticed within myself, but also with my clients, what's coming through in the quantum healing hypnosis sessions, et cetera, and just the shift in my own consciousness, it's like the ego, you know, the traumatized ego, or the ego that you know has pulled us, has lived in separation, and it was so at the helm, we'll say, of
Sure.
you know, and the driver, but you know, in its, as you said, in its limited way, and then which leads on to greed and selfishness, and all about me and my stuff and my my identity, etc. So when we start to come back into the heart, and we start to take greater self-responsibility, and really own, you know, start to own our light and accept our light, and then start to really own our darkness, as you said, what's been avoided or denied within ourself, as that inner, you know, what is within is without, that reflective mirror, and really start taking ownership. What I notice within myself is that this ego becomes, it's like the ego is the inner child of God, and so as we heal that inner child, so the inner child first, we have to heal the ego in a way, and as that ego and that heals, and I'm definitely an example of that journey, as we talked about earlier, is that that ego, instead of a kind of pulling off in its own direction, and it's all, and its issues and its problems and its wants and its don't wants, etc., and that real polarized duality, it starts to melt back into that neutrality, and it begins to feel safe, safe in the goodness, safe in the godness, safe in the greatness, and begin to go, oh, I can own my light, I can own my shadow, that I am all of this. And so when we truly come back and we own that we are creator beings, and this is our projection, then we're in our power, and then we're in our groundedness, and then we can really allow our godness to really take the helm, if you like, or just to move through this body of consciousness, this vessel, this vehicle, this sacred temple, this church of our own embodiment, to be that expression of, if you want, the Lord's will, or, you know, just the universal consciousness, the divine love, etc., etc., to just move through us, through our unique expression. And that's the beauty, is that we're all these beautiful, unique, precious expressions of that universal consciousness.
Sweetheart, I couldn't put it any better than that. That absolutely is the God's honest truth as I understand it. And you know, God love you, honey. And this is it. You're speaking from your experience, and that is it. You know, the only thing I will you know, just add to what you've really summed up so eloquently, you know, is that people don't understand that you can and you must heal your ego. You know, that is part of the spiritual path. And if you don't love yourself, how can you love anyone else, and how can you let anyone love you? And you know, so the thing is, we get to the higher self through the inner child. This is something Drunvalo Melchizedek taught us. And so, like you're saying, there's the wounded inner child, there's the negative ego, there's the shadow, and we're all afraid of that. We're afraid of our pain. We're afraid of being caught out as being imperfect, and we have shame, and we have guilt, and we have experiences of loss and lack and attack and abandonment and betrayal and all the lovely things we get to go through as human beings. But as you said so powerfully, hon, once you realize you are more than those experiences, and there's part of you that knows how to help you learn that and become that, your higher self, soul, and spirit, to my mind, then yeah, now you've got it. And then you say, yes, I'm imperfect and I'm human and I've made mistakes, and good for me. But I'm more than all that, and I love who I am and who I'm becoming and who I've been. I love that too, because that's a part of who I couldn't be who I am now if I hadn't gone through what I went through before. So it's all of a piece. It's, we either accept ourselves and learn to love each other, or we pretend that we're okay and we're still wounded and frightened, and we don't really open up to love. We don't really open up to God. And it is a very courageous and vulnerable and humbling journey, as you know, and it takes just total commitment every chance we get to move the energy in our lives. And that's where the grace and the peace and the joy and the happiness comes from, is overcoming our limitations and our illusions of separation. And then, yeah, you are a light unto the world, and you have something to offer that is joyous and liberating, and people know that and feel that, like me right here with you.
And just to add to that as well, I would say that, yes, not owning, you know, or not wanting to look at the shadow necessarily, but also I feel like actually, and it's been on my journey for sure, I can definitely relate to this, is our fear of actually embracing our light.
Oh yeah.
Truly embracing our light.
Well, that's Marianne Williamson's great quote. Do you know that one?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. We're more afraid of our light than we are of our darkness.
Who am I to say I'm brilliant and magnificent and all of this, you know? And that's
who are you not to?
Exactly.
Yes.
You're a child of God. You're playing small will not serve the world.
Yes, exactly. No, I love that. Yes, it's really true. And when we make our peace with that, as we're learning to, and life is inviting us to, then yeah, the question from my guides is how good can you stand it? You know, how much love and joy and happiness can you let into your life as you know who you are, as you awaken? Like, again, to come back to the original question, it just keeps getting deeper. You know, I think awakening is realizing that everything is a choice, and that the choice is always between fear and love, and that sometimes we'll choose fear just out of confusion and self-doubt and whatnot. But when we have the courage and the willingness to choose love, and people help us to find that confidence and that faith, then we do become more of who we are truly meant to be. And I believe that is humanity's real destiny. And I was saying this earlier, I believe that the children and the young people of the world right now, coming into their maturity in such a global crisis as this, are going to pull a lot of rabbits out of their hats to help all of us see that anything is possible. But you know, that's where God lives, in the anything is possible room, you know, in our mind, and that's where we're learning to live more and more every day.
Yeah, I've been really connected with and probably a lot because I've really done even deeper healing with my inner child over these latter months, and gone through that, and just that knowingness, you know, when you tap in again to that deep place, that deep knowingness. And one of the things that's I've become very aware of is that quote that I would have heard growing up, of course, in religion and church, but didn't really get it: be as a child to enter the kingdom of heaven. You
Yeah.
know, and so when
Yeah.
that inner child is healed and we're healed, the ego is healed, and it melds back into the higher self or to the heart, and
Yeah.
it melds and it stops in the resistance and separating itself out and isolating itself and
Yeah. Yeah.
and perpetuating that identity, and it begins to
Yes.
come in and merge with the unity of the self and the balancing of the polarities, and that innocent, you know, and that masculine feminine, so we call that polarities as well, the yin and the
Yeah.
yang, they
Yeah.
meld into that 0 point, and that innocent child is birthed again and again and again through that purity, through that
Yeah.
oneness,
Yeah.
and through that celebration of love, of life, of
Yeah.
connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. No, that's absolutely brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant, honey. Yeah. That's it. I mean, when we make peace with that the war is actually within us, and if we make peace with these parts of ourself and we learn to love, face our fears, and have compassion for our pain, and be humble in the presence of truth, and see life as a never-ending journey, that this is just another chapter of each and every day, you know, then yeah, we do start to become teachable and available to not only awaken but to stay awake. That's the other part of the dance, you know, because it's kind of those two steps. And the other thing I want to say is, you know, what my guides have spoken through me for a long time has been about enlightened group consciousness. And as we're shifting, you know, out of these polarities of tribal living and Western living, you know, all the different cultural mindsets that we've all lived in for years, and we start to bring these two archetypal human societies together, the tribal and the modern, you know, that's another huge shift in awareness, that we respect and need each other, we honor each other, we have something to offer to each other in order for all of us to survive as one people, as one humanity. So yeah, you know, there's no shortage of opportunities for all of us to learn and to help each other to awaken and stay awake. And to me, you know, like conversations like this, my purpose in life is to give and receive inspiration. Inspiration is the voice of spirit, and inspiration is when we're lifted up together and we see new possibilities and new ways of looking at reality, and a new song, a new dance, you know, some wonderful creation, that we want to be the creators of this world. And but as we're saying, it has to happen by bringing these parts of us together, not judging, fearing, or denying them, and making our peace with them, and then seeing what comes from that, being willing to be surprised and humbled.
Beautiful, beautiful. And it's interesting with the whole, you mentioned about facing your fears. And I really, you know, ultimately it's facing your fears so eventually you can realize that you're the one creating them.
Yes, that's right. Hello.
Yeah, and that's the cosmic joke.
Oh yes, oh yes. Why won't they stop hitting me? Why do they keep hitting me? Why is somebody always hitting me? Yeah, I mean, my joke is there's always one suspect at the scene of all my crimes, you know,
Yeah,
and it's a very short list. But yeah, it's
the
like, it's
common
wonderful.
denominator.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
But you know, it's wonderful to laugh about these things, because I mentioned Dr. Peebles earlier. He's a dear spirit guide. He says, as you approach your enlightenment, simply lighten up.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of the things I was going to touch on earlier here about our future destiny is Lazaris taught us that it was never meant to be as painful here as it's become. And when Patricia talks about the fall from grace, or Drunvalo talks about the fall of Atlantis, you know, they're all saying basically the same thing, that, you know, we started acting out of the part of ourselves that wasn't loving, and creating realities that were destructive and poverty and illness and sickness and death and torture and murder and all sorts of mayhem came out of that. So we've had, like we're saying, 3D, we're done with that. We've had that lesson. And all of us who are looking in the direction of spirit and hope and faith and the inner journey and all that, you know, we're the Marines, we're the vanguard, we're the ambassadors from the future. We're the ones who say, come on, guys, I think it's over here, you know, and let's take a look in this direction. And then the icing on the cake, of course, my dear friend, is, and I loved your dance in the kitchen the other day. I want to mention that here because that was great fun wherever that was at. You know, that the basis of life is freedom. This is Abraham through Esther Hicks, and the purpose of life is joy. Well, if the purpose of life is joy and we're living in a tragedy, a lot of us have been well turned around from the right direction. So you and I are going, yeah, let's have some more joy, guys.
Yeah.
We can change the world through laughter and song and love and lighten this place considerably.
And that's that readiness as well, because you know, there is I feel like there is that absolute invitation. That's what this is about. And on a soul level, I feel like we're so there that ego can still be a bit reluctant, you know, because it just wants to hold on and grip on.
Sure.
And of course now, you know, that's the opportunity, of course, of this time, is because it's like life is kind of going, less and less to grip onto.
Sure, that's right, exactly.
So then we go,
that's
okay, right. I guess I better let that go and actually look a different direction and embrace a new thought and a new possibility and a new way of you know, even as simple as I often say to people who come on my retreats, you know, it's like, would you have been even open to doing a yoga class 6 months ago or 2 years ago? And of course, many people, it's no. You know, it's a new thing because of, and it's come about because of maybe anxiety or, you know, a transition in life or relationship issues or whatever it is, you know. So it's so true what you said. It's like, you know, life is, the ego is going, this is not fair, why me? And and life is going, I'm offering you another opportunity.
I'm giving it to you on a silver plate.
And to give you what you're actually saying you want, because deep down we're saying, life, you know, I want an easier life, or, you know, I want more holidays, or, you know, I want to have more fun and more joy. But of course, what we do is we often put all this stuff in front, or the ego does, of all this stuff in front of us before I can actually relax, or before I can actually go on that holiday or follow my heart, you know. So it's taking all that away so we can actually come back and go, right, what's your passion now? What are you actually really interested about?
That's right. That's
Go
right.
do that.
That's right. Well, again, my friend, that's beautiful. You know, the heart knows what the mind struggles to believe. And so, you know, if we will listen to, trust, and follow our hearts, and, you know, sit in peace and sit in love and gratitude and find and feel that inspiration fill us up like you're expressing so beautifully, then, we're willing to make the changes. And like you're saying, of course, most of the world, most of the time has been in our heads. But now this huge shift in consciousness is opening our hearts, awakening our emotions, and deepening our ability to listen to and connect with our spirits and our guides and God Almighty. And, you know, it's, but again, it's like, it's completely subjective. It's at everyone's own timing. It's just that, like we're saying, when chaos and crisis are our outer experience, that is very motivating to get us to change our minds.
Yeah.
It's a gift.
And to make a present time, isn't it? Rather than putting it over there.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, now. Yes,
that's right. Well, again, it's like crisis demands resolution. You know, if our lives are threatened, we're either going to live or die. It's just that simple sometimes. We're either going to, you know, find the answer, or we're going to suffer the consequences of not. And so when people are individually, of course, we know that the collective is in the same place now. Everyone is in the same place of this collective consciousness, this cosmic reboot, which is what is the world we want to live in, and how do we create it, and how much of what we have created is going to serve us truly to live in the world we want, and how much of it do we need to let go of and release? And how can I be a conscious part of that? How can I have a voice in that and be an inspiration and a help to that? And like we're saying, we can't understand or solve these things, as individual humans, except that we let the universe work through us, and it shows us what's possible, and shows us who to connect with, and shows us where to go, and these kinds of things. So I really do feel like this is the spiritual awakening of this lifetime for sure. And it is going to come through us right up against the wall and saying, I need there to be an answer, and I will do whatever it takes to surrender to finding that for myself and my world. And God says, you got a deal. And that's what it takes. It takes total commitment and total surrender for total transformation. And that's a bargain. That's the Rumi poem. Love says, what is the cost of freedom? And it says, the cost of freedom is your life. And my heart runs towards it shouting, what a bargain. What do we have to lose? Is the other way to say it. And only our pain and our fear and our little illusions of separation. So this is the great gift of this time. And I've no doubt we're going to get through it and be stronger and clearer and better human beings, because each of us is taking that next step that we've been looking for permission to take, that deepens our connection to who we are as spiritual beings having a human experience. And when that solves the problem in your life, you are different, as both of us know from experience.
Beautiful.
You're
Beautiful.
awake. You're awake. We'll bring it full circle one more time. Welcome to being awake, my friends.
Yeah, the awareness of the self.
Yeah, that you and God are not separate, and that they are available to help with anything, and our work is to ask and to listen, to trust, and to follow.
What is God for you?
It's again, sweetheart, it's perfect peace and unconditional love. There's not an end of it. It's infinite, it's absolute. It's beyond the human mind, I think, to really understand it, but it's not beyond the human heart. That's the grace of it. And I really want to say this too. It's womankind. The women in our lives, our mothers and our wives and sisters and lovers and girlfriends and nieces, everyone who has been on this planet as a woman. This lifetime is incredibly important because of all of you, because you are helping us to wake up. You see, you are helping us to understand where humanity has lost its way. And this cannot be ignored. Another generation just can't be. It has to be addressed, and mankind needs to make amends for where we have erred and treated women badly and treated the earth badly, and really acknowledge that and take responsibility for that, and then learn from our teachers, our sisters, and our wives, how to live consciously and with more love in our hearts in this world. It's not a given. It's a gift.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So I think we'll wrap it up pretty soon. But what I'd like to just ask you one more question. Yeah, just
sure, honey. This is the longest conversation I've had in some time.
just I guess going back to the men again, that it can be so confronting.
Sure.
Just any final words of wisdom, of advice for the men that are really rattled by what's going on, and it could even be that they have a woman around them who is really stepping into her power, and that's making them uncomfortable, etc., etc. Speak to that.
Well, thank you. You saved the toughest question for last, I'm gonna say. Like I said, there's all these wonderful male teachers that have inspired me, and I'm very, very grateful to all of them. Again, it's such a deep question. I think most, what Robert Bly taught us, and he's one of my heroes, and if people don't know him, definitely want to check him out. BLY, Robert Bly. he said, a doorway into a man's heart is through grief. And grief is about building a strong enough emotional body to sustain higher states of ecstasy. And I was chatting with you earlier that my housemate and friend here is a family constellation facilitator, and I've done his workshop now 39 times basically in the last number of years. And every one of those workshops is standing in and being someone else's father, brother, son, you know, you name it, grandfather, unborn child, you know, you represent, is the word, the energy of that person who someone is still struggling with or asking questions about in terms of healing their own ancestral karma or emotional trauma and these kinds of things, and finding some way to come to peace and forgiveness and closure about stuff. And doing that over and over again, you know, has been so humbling and so deepening for me, MJ, that I know it's been a big part of my own journey this last number of years here, my last decade in Ireland, from in my 50s, basically. I'm 63 now. And, you know, I think men's hearts have to break open is the short answer to it. And if they can't or won't grieve or be emotionally vulnerable, it's going to be harder on this planet, you know, with the increasing vibrations and all of that. But I know, you know, as you're asking me, I mean, God is a God of mercy and love and compassion and made all of us for this joyous purpose. So, you know, the only question is, what is it going to take? And can you cooperate with the healing, or do we hang on to the denial? And I think, honestly, the greatest gift that a man has is the conscious women in his life, as well as the conscious men, but especially the conscious women in terms of men being, you know, no one, put it this way, no one knows more how high the cost of men denying their emotional vulnerability is than the women in their life, because the women carry the emotional shadow of what men deny in themselves about feeling, expressing, and acknowledging and taking responsibility for. So yeah, it's still a big mountain that we're all climbing together. But I know we will get there, and I know that men need to also learn to let women be their teachers. And this is just beginning to happen in our world, even now. So I'm sure that more women like yourself are going to be teaching men like me what we need to look at and what we need to work with and how we need to see ourselves. And men need to be open to that, I guess, is my closing comment about all that. And that's, it's, my guides say, it's impossible until it's inevitable. And to me right now, we're moving well into inevitable, my friends. It has to happen. You know, the last thought here, one of the teachers I got a lot from in Los Angeles was a woman named Rianne Eisler, who wrote a book called The Chalice and the Blade. And she talked about how there are dominator societies and there are egalitarian societies. And the dominator societies like fascist Germany and the one we're living through right now, there are a lot of, you know, sound and thunder signifying very little, and they're short-lived, because if the women of the world don't sustain the men, the society always collapses in a heap. And of course, the women can't sustain the men and their families if they're treated abominably. And this is what we're healing right now. Women are finding their voices and speaking up about their worth, and men who have mistreated women are being held to account little bit by little bit. It's very small, but it's the beginning of a stream that will turn into a flood eventually. And this is the healing that the world needs to call forth. We're the king of nothings. Is the world that men have created right now. We're at the top of a big pile of junk, and it's very tragic. And the people that revere these bloated idiots, pardon my expression, are really quite confused about where value and meaning comes from in their lives. So I mean, I'm trying to put this in such a positive spin, but you know, tragedy is cathartic, and sometimes the worst thing that happens in your life is the necessary pain to motivate you to change your mind and wake up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I hope it happens.
It's like the old reality is exhausted, you know, in terms of its capacity to perpetuate itself in the old way, because it doesn't have the access to the energy and the consciousness. So so you speak about the women and the heart, and of course men as well, is that feminine is access and that greater infinite energy and consciousness to bring through the vitality to perpetuate the next new and birthing of the new creation, the next new reality.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. I mean, you know, the men that have really moved me of my own generation are the musicians, you know, and the actors who have been vulnerable and honest and are brilliant and compassionate and caring about other human beings. Those are the people that I revere. You know, but as we're saying here, the old paradigm is bereft, and hanging on to it is only going to cause more suffering. So, you know, it's like giving up an addiction. You know, the hardest part are the first steps. And once you commit to, I don't know where I'm going, but I can't go back to where I've been, and you keep moving in the direction and people say, look at this, try this, you know, you start to find your way. I mean, you and I know, honey, because we've had such great times together and such great connections, and we do follow each other. You know, it's we have nothing to lose and everything to gain, and so it's just, you know, taking those leaps of faith, and again, seeing how good we can stand it, and how much life can change to help us awaken and stay awake one more time, to love, to the power of love. That's what this world is about.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Lou. That's so beautiful. I've loved this conversation and co-creation, and very inspiring. Will you share now with your offerings and how you're supporting people who are awakening or well on the journey, the people that come to you, and how you can serve and what you offer?
Sure, sweetheart. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure and a joy, MJ. Truly, just really a delight, honey. I'm so proud of you, and this is so special for me. Thank you. Yeah. So people can bless you. We'll, let's do it again soon. Yeah. People can find me at loumartin.org. That's my homepage, or my Facebook page is Lightheart 2012, and I do morning prayers there, 9 a.m. Ireland time, Monday through Thursday. And then I do one-to-one sessions with clients, spiritual counseling and channeled readings. And I have 2 ebooks, The Invitation and The New Path. And I'm always glad to connect with anyone who's inspired by what I've had to share, because this is my passion. And we all know your passion is your purpose, my friends. And this has certainly been mine.
Beautiful. Thank you, Lou. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sweetheart. Bless you.